Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to make an Elmo puppet out of a few sheets of paper. Welcome along, my name is Ben Stanley and I design and create working replicas of beloved Muppets, puppets, characters and creatures. So, if papercraft's your thing, I'd really love it if you gave this video a thumbs up. So I've wanted to make Elmo for quite a long time now, but I recently made Mario and had loads of red paper left over, so I thought, you know what, this is the perfect opportunity. And here we are.
Elmo is excited to be here.
You know what, Elmo? I'm excited for you to be here as well, because we're going to show everyone today how I made you.
Oh, Elmo loves making things. Elmo help. What can Elmo do?
But you know what? I think I've probably got it covered, but if you like, we can both watch how it's done.
Elmo would love to do that.
Okay then, well let's get into it. This is how to make Elmo. So this is a 13 sheet of paper puppet with an extra 8 to 10 sheets of tissue paper needed if you want to add the fur texture. Now you won't see me adding the fur texture in this video as it was a late addition well after I'd filmed the making part of the video, but I have included the 2 fur templates I created and used as part of the overall design template, and I've added some basic written instructions explaining how I went about attaching them to the final puppet. But what you're seeing here is the construction of Elmo's head, which is mostly a process of gluing and sticking along the guidelines until that semi-spherical shape of the top half of the head starts to emerge. Now with this shape, as with all my designs, my aim is to give that impression of a natural 3-dimensional curvature in the puppet. But paper only curves along one plane, so for example, you can curl it into a cylinder, but not into a sphere, which means you have to cut and fold to create any sense of a spherical shape. At the same time, I don't want folds or cuts to be too noticeable, plus I want to keep the design as simple as I can, so I want to get away with as few cuts and folds as possible. So it's always a balancing act, but in the end, my hope is that these puppets will have a more organic and less geometrical feel than you might expect from a paper construction. And so here, once the top half of the head has been constructed, we're moving on to the mouth plate, and that's just 2 circles, one black glued onto a red one, and then folded in the centre. And then we add these finger loops at the top and bottom, which allow for the movement of the mouth. And then we're going to glue the top half of that plate onto the section we just created. And again, I'll say, with any gluing, it always takes a good couple of minutes holding the glued paper together for the sections to fully bond, so it's always going to take much longer than I'm showing here. And then we're on to the jaw section, and I'm showing more gluing in this video than I usually do because the gluing is a bit more specific and a bit less obvious than in the ones from my previous puppets. In retrospect, I'm both happy and not so happy with this jaw section. It's an exciting design step forward for me in terms of the jaw to neck flexibility and movement, all are being achieved from a single sheet. And as much as it allows the neck and the jaw to be connected while also allowing for a decent jaw movement. And that's definitely something I'll explore further in future puppets where it's relevant. But I think the jawline itself is perhaps just a bit too square for Elmo, and that it's definitely something I would change if I was to revisit this puppet. So the jaw glues into place at the bottom of the mouth. And again, it's probably worth using something just to allow you to put pressure on the paper there. So I'm using a little spatula. And then these little flaps at the side are folded and glued into place. Now I haven't included folding guidelines on the template, but once glued into place, like so, then you can use a ruler to crease 3 folds whose points all meet at the very corner of the mouth on both sides, and this allows the mouth to open and close with ease. For each eye, we slice around 1/4 to 1/3 off the side of a 4cm polystyrene ball and colour in a black pupil, but it's best to test it with a pencil before committing with a marker pen to make sure that they face the right way once the eyes are glued on. They'll actually need to go a little lower on the face than I'm showing here, but the template has been corrected for the right spacing. Plus, it's worth noting that if you want to add fur texture, now will be the time to add it to the face before you glue on the eyes and nose. So this is going to be the nose that I'm folding here, and it's based on the nose that I created for my Mario puppet, but placed at a 90-degree angle. Once constructed, it's perhaps not the perfect Elmo nose shape. It could have been a bit more egg-like, although ironically, when I created the Mario nose, that's what I based it on. I basically wrapped a piece of paper around an egg and sort of backwards engineered where the folds and cuts would need to be. Again, this section involves a lot of careful gluing. It's always useful to slide something like a ruler or knife behind the paper where you can't get access with your fingers to allow you to apply enough pressure to bond the paper. And as with the eyes, the nose will need to be glued a bit lower down than I'm showing here. But again, the template will make that clear if you do give it a go. And then we're creating the body shape, and this is the front part of the body, and with this section, it's best to glue on the back of the paper so that the front, or what will become the outer section, remains glue-free. For this section, the template guidelines are on the outside, but I don't have a hard and fast rule on that. It just depends what's best for any particular section of the puppet. Where the template cutting lines are on the outside and so more potentially visible, I tend to cut marginally to the side of the line so that when it folds, the template line will be hidden by the other flap that's lying over it. And this is a rare one where we actually do more cutting once we've glued it together. So although I usually suggest cutting and pre-folding all relevant template lines before construction, in this case these particular cutting lines are left until the construction is underway. And the aim of this extra cutting and gluing is to give the body a bit more curvature. And then we're going to repeat exactly the same on the other side. And then there's a bit of trimming, although I could have equally folded and glued these bits inwards. And then just a little cut there at the bottom of the neck, and we're going to glue the bottom of the neck and the top of the front body section together, and that cut made into the neck is going to help the paper flatten out a little more and bond more easily with the body section. The back section here is almost identical to the front section, and it's glued together in much the same way. So again, I'm gluing on the inside to keep the outside all neat. And it's exactly the same with waiting until this point to cut this section and then gluing it in. These bottom tabs that I'm going to use to glue the front and back together are a little thin, so what I've actually done is just get an extra bit of cut off paper there and glued it in to give it a wider gluing area and make it more secure. And then we're going to glue the other section, and you can see it's getting pushed out and almost popped into shape as you hold the two tabs together, and then I'm going to add another piece of paper over those tabs again to help hold it in place. Next we're on to gluing the sides of the sections together, with the front section overlaying the back section on both sides. The results are a bit busy in terms of fold lines that you can see, but the arms are going to mask a lot of that. And then these two little sections here in the jaw can just be folded up and glued into place. And then we're on to the hands. Puppet hands are tricky. I've used spheres before for clenched fists, say on Sonic or Mario, but Elmo's hands are open, so I've gone with what you could almost describe as a 2.5 dimensional design, starting with a 2D hand shape, but then adding thickness with these glued on strips of paper that I've measured to make sure I know where all the turns are going to be. Then all the little tabs on those strips of paper fold down so that you can glue the other hand section onto it. It's somewhat boxy, but it feels right for the character. Then we create the arms by folding this paper around the hand section, helping the wrists eventually become less rectangular and more cylindrical. So once you've glued it together, putting a ruler or a spatula down the centre here helps to put pressure on both sides of the paper whilst the glue is bonding them. So squeezing the end together will start to create the shoulder here, and once the circular shape is cut, we just need to glue a couple of loose layers together. Then we're folding the shoulder and elbow joints, and squeezing either side of the elbow joints locks that fold in and gives the upper and forearms some more volume. This is where we're going to add a paper fastener which goes through one side of the arm and into the side of the upper body. And then we'll glue that closed to hide the paper fastener, and again it helps to use a ruler here so that you can help apply pressure on both sides. And then we're onto the feet, and the foot design is almost identical to the nose design. There's a slight difference as one side is flatter, but effectively it's the same sort of gluing and folding, very similar process. Now for the feet, unlike with the body sections, I'm folding it so that the template lines end up on the inside rather than the outside. As I said earlier, there's no exact science here, but it's just about when I'm designing, I want to make it as easy to construct as possible. So I just go with whatever makes the most sense for any given section. And so the back section glues down, and then before we fold the last two bits in, we're going to create the leg. So again, it's a single sheet of paper folded into a cylinder and glued to the edge of a guideline, and then we're going to fold it in 3 pre-marked places, which are going to be the ankle, knee joint, and hip. And as with the arm, we pinch either side of the central fold, this time to create the knee joint. And then you can do similar pinches at the ankle and the hip folds to give that leg a bit of volume. And here we're going to glue the lower leg section to the foot section, and then fold and glue those 2 foot tabs onto the leg section to strengthen that connection. Then we're going to cut a little bit off the very top leg tab, and we're going to glue it at the base of the body section with the top edge of the leg section aligned with the seam where the front and back body parts meet. And that's the body construction, and you can either leave it like that or you can add fur texture using tissue paper. So there you have it. A full-sized Elmo puppet made out of a few sheets of paper.
Elmo loved learning how to make Elmo.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, and thank you for being here today, and thank you for being here as well. If you enjoyed this, you might want to check out my Kermit the Frog video over there. So, there we go.
Can Elmo say something before we go?
Yeah, of course you can, yeah.
Elmo loves you.
I love you too, Elmo. Until next time, bye-bye.